Thanks for joining me today. I'm Aaron Rutten, and today we're going to be live streaming a logo design. You helped me choose this theme through a poll, and that poll was... I'll just pull it up on screen here. That's not the poll. Where's the poll? There we go. I made this more difficult by doing a screen capture for some reason when I should have just shown the darn page. So you chose design a logo. In a close second was draw a raven from Fortnite. So that's what we're going to do. So here in Corel Painter, I've already started to draw based on this reference image here. Just kind of a cartoony hand, and the concept I had was for a finger that's a pencil. I don't know, it just seems like a fun idea for a logo, so that's what I'm going to try to do. Lots of people commenting in here. Anita's here, good to see you, Anita. Anita's a member, and if you want to be a member too, you can. Dun, 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 dun. Get out of the way, name slate. You can become a member by clicking that join button on my channel, and you can get access to all kinds of members only perks, like special emojis you can use in the chat, a badge like Anita has, and access to early releases of my videos and members only live streams. Okay, so back to here. So I got this sketch. I'm gonna clean it up a bit more because I'm not 100% happy with it, but it's pretty close to where I want it to be. Since this will be a logo, I don't want it to be too detailed, so I have to try to be careful not to make it overly complicated. I'm going to move my reference image over to a different screen too, and then I can see what I'm doing better here. Oh, why does it do this? This particular brush just really wants to default to a different color. I feel like I've reset it before and it still wants to do it. So I guess the question is, when... Oh, this is so irritating. I'm not even going to use that brush anymore. It's weird, like, I've been using Painter a lot, and I've been using that brush a lot. I used that brush to sketch this, and then all of a sudden when I'm doing the live stream, it keeps wanting to switch the color to like this weird red color every time I select that brush. Something's going on. Something's not right. But what are you going to do? Okay, so I wanted to fix this little area here, which I think I'm more happy with. And then this finger might come down a bit more. I don't know that I'll even show the fingernails. That might be too much detail. So I might just end up simplifying it. We will have to see. Doesn't hurt to get it looking realistic though first. Then you can always simplify it later. Switch to this here so you can kind of see how I'm doing this too. I'm just being kind of loose and sketchy about it. And this is really not so angular like that. Starting to like that better. I wonder, maybe that stuff needs to come down a bit more. Maybe be a bit more down there like that. Now this one, you don't actually see as much in the reference photo. Okay, so I could have just started with what I had, but I feel like it was worth it to clean this up a bit. Now it's much better. Thumb might be a little too thick, so probably should clean that up too. I think where it's at is fine. It's a bit better. Finger's a bit too thick. Yep, still gonna need some more work. I'm gonna simplify it so much that this is just kind of silly how much I'm nitpicking this. But you know what? May as well do it right. But this is part of the, part of the process I would go through to create a logo. I would sketch it out in some way or another. And as you're, tweaking this and manipulating it and transforming the layers and all that stuff, it helps you just kind of visualize it. I mean, you could certainly draw this and redraw it a bunch of times if you want to do that. I don't find that to be an efficient way to work. I'd rather do it this way. In either case, I'm still making observations about what looks right and what doesn't. I'll just pause for a minute and catch up on comments here. Thanks everybody for tuning in and for all of your great comments. Angelica's here. Good to see you, Angelica. Jamie's here and says good morning. Good morning, Jamie. Painter's headed out to work and can't watch the stream. Sorry, Painter. Mindert's here. Toffel's here. Sage of the Hedgehog is here. Painter will watch when they get back home from work. Yeah, this will be recorded, so anybody who doesn't get to watch the whole thing will get to watch it later. Toffel just got Corel Painter 2019. Excellent. Mindert says, thank you for the Corel Painter Essentials tutorial and all the Wacom Intuos videos. I can use my Wacom now, especially for the layer part of the Corel tutorial. That's good. That's what it's all about. I'm glad that I'm able to help people get into digital art. It's kind of the mission of this channel. So you know what? When I started doing digital art, there really wasn't a whole lot out there to help me. So I think we should all do that. We don't all have to be experts. I don't consider myself to be an expert. I think there's still a lot to learn about everything, and digital art keeps changing every year with each version of the software. It's kind of hard to know everything. So everyone's learning as they go along, but that doesn't mean that you can't share what you know to help others. So I think we should all do that, whether it's your goal to be a teacher or not, it doesn't hurt to share your process at the very least. And maybe you're not going to step-by-step guide somebody, but maybe you'll just inspire them to create something similar to what you created. Ultimate Artworks is watching from Austria. Crew of Fox is watching from Malaysia. I think it's cool that we can all be in different places around the world and be hanging out together, enjoying art. Nikolai says my channel is like a gold mine. Thank you, Nikolai. Okay. So I'm going to go back to working on this. The pencil's still at kind of an angle, so is that going to bother me enough to need to fix it? Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and just move my origin point down here, and that'll make it much easier to line up. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. Something like that's good. I'm going to check the proportion a bit on the finger. I could just use a guide for that. And just kind of think about, like, this is visually kind of what I'm going through when I'm looking at the reference photo. Like, did I do the pencil too tall? Like, how far does it go above the knuckles? You know, how much space is in this little area here? And it doesn't have to be perfect because, again, this is just going to be a logo. It's not going to be like a photorealistic drawing of a hand. I've probably not done a very good job because I've taken it to that level of being a little bit more detailed than it needs to be, but I feel like that's helpful. Sometimes peace of mind is worth it, you know? Like all these little wrinkles on the knuckles and stuff, those probably aren't even going to be in the logo, but hey, I know they're there. And there may be some subtle detail that, you know, I can add to put emphasis on that later. Okay. Let's just do these lines correctly here. When I started this image, I wasn't using a reference. I mean, I was looking at my own hand, but I was like just looking down at my hand, and then before I started the live stream, I was like, you know what? I should just have a reference so that I'm not having to look down at my hand the whole time when I'm trying to draw. I'm glad that I did that. Okay, let's go with that because I'm going to have plenty of opportunities to tweak the simplified version. So I'm going to save that. And I'm going to go to Illustrator. Whoa. Too much zoom. Okay. Probably don't need my reference anymore. I was just looking at comments there. I'll just take comment breaks here and there periodically to answer comments, if that's all right. That way I can focus on drawing. I talk too much and don't draw enough sometimes. So I'm going to make this more transparent. It's on a layer. Call that layer Sketch. And I'll save that just to make sure it's saved right off the bat. Now the question is, how simple do I want to make this? If it's going to be a logo, it could potentially be kind of small, like very, very teeny tiny like that. So I might have to omit the fingernails. The fingernails do kind of help, you know, it helps add some realism to it, but they might be so small of details that they might get lost. So we'll see. Do want to lock the sketch in the background and create a new layer. Now, I'll probably do this mostly with the curvature pen tool. Maybe I'll outline it and then I'll fill it with a paint bucket. So here I think I want to start to try to make it more angular. And I'm going to have to save that part and do it with a different brush. So I'm going to hold off there. I'm going to do these. Okay. These lines here. Now, when they start getting a little bit close to each other, it starts to try to edit the line that you click next to, so I'll have to just kind of deal with that for now, and then separate things a bit. What I do want to do is just make this a bit thicker. Just kind of get an overall feel for the boldness of these lines and how they're going to be small. So I want it to be simplified and kind of more bold. So I might do it a bit thicker like that. But ultimately, even though it's going to be that size, to make it easier to work with up close, I don't want it to be too thick. Then I won't be able to see these corners accurately and things like that. So that can go up there. That little piece down there. I'll lock a few layers, and that'll make it easier to get exactly what I want. Okay, now this can just go. No, actually, let's just do this. We'll just make sure that it's perfectly even, like that. And we can trim off some of it. We'll have to use the scissors for that. Okay. A little bit there that needs to be trimmed too. I'll just join these endpoints. And then I'll probably want to smooth that out a bit. There we go. I'll lock that. Get these knuckles up here. Move that line to intersect there with that. And bam, it's starting to come together. I'm going to lock all these lines. Create a new set of lines. Of course, it would help if I were selecting the right tool here. That one's going to take a little bit of finessing. This tool can be a little bit unruly sometimes. There we go. Needs to come out a bit more. All right, that might be okay for now. Starting to come together. Now, one thing I see that I did as a mistake, I need to fix that. All right. Now up here, I need to go ahead and make this come up to a point. I'm just going to add anchor points and delete anchor points. That's really odd. I did not want to update. That'll be the tip of the pencil there. Okay, so now we need to add a few more details here. A couple lines like that. Now, some things you can freehand draw in if you want to. That way it doesn't look too rigid. This I will probably just do with the line tool. Okay, so now I need to find that rectangle. I'll use the scissors on that to remove that top line. And then the little triangle. Use the scissors on that. It's a very surgical way of drawing. Getting in and like cutting out little pieces of lines. I feel like it's not quite perfectly upright, so I'm just selecting all of those nodes and straightening them out just a bit. This layer needs to be adjusted a bit. I might just zoom in here and try to clean this up more. This is me being lazy. You know what? You failed me, blob brush. Let's just do that instead. Join those endpoints and those endpoints. They don't seem to want to join. That tends to happen sometimes. Why won't you join? Let's see here. We got a few different paths going on. There we go. Something else was layered up there that was interfering with it. Kind of like that, where it goes up into that arrow shape. Okay, it's coming together. So now at this point, I don't know that I need the sketch if I'm going to keep it pretty simple like that. I think I'll do without the fingernails. I know I wasted time drawing in fingernails and wrinkles, but that stuff does help you visualize the three-dimensional forms when you're drawing. They're like little landmarks, you know? Think about Google Maps or something. Like when you look at the map's very simplified, but when it started out, it was based off of a really, really complex map that had trees and roads and all kinds of stuff. So sometimes it needs to go from complex to simple. Craig is talking about the learning curve for all software. Craig started with freehand, which is very similar to Adobe Illustrator, and it seems so intuitive. There's definitely a steep learning curve for Illustrator, but it has tremendous power. I tinkered with freehand a little bit before I really got into doing any kind of vector art. I don't remember enough about it to really remember how it felt to use it, but I remember it was similar enough to Illustrator to where I didn't have much trouble going to Illustrator, but at that point Illustrator was pretty rudimentary. Now you can do so much with it so much more easily. Like, I can remember the workflows you'd have to go through in much earlier versions, and you know, just to do something like, this is a good example, draw a rectangle, right? And if you wanted to round the corners, I think you had to do something like apply some sort of filter to it or whatever. Now all you have to do is just grab these handles and round the corners, and it's a live rounding. You know, things like that where it's just instant rather than having to do all this other stuff. The curvature pen tool, you know, I can make these nice curves without having to draw with a Bezier pen. Sure, it's a little unruly, but you know, you can manipulate it in a much better way. I would use Microsoft Expression Design, which is now a retired app that had a great cubic B-spline pen, which did something much, I wouldn't say it did it better, it did it similarly to the curvature pen tool, but you know, it took a long time for Adobe to finally release the curvature pen tool. Personally, I don't think it's really that hard to use, but I've had time to learn it, so you know, I think as far as things, as far as lessons and what I try to teach to people, I think it's on the easier end because it's pretty simple. It feels technical when you watch somebody do it and you see all the layers, but it's actually a lot easier to describe what to do because you can say, you know, make this line this shape. Like you're going line for line and color for color, and there's steps to it, whereas when you're painting something, if I were painting this hand, it would be really hard to say, okay, you know, paint the crease in the thumb this way, or, you know, I don't know, but that's just me. I I do see some more stuff that I need to fix. Let's see, what do I want? I think I want this layer here. And this actually needs to continue down, and it needs to overlap the finger a bit. Try that. And then this layer, need to fix this. Thumb is a little lumpy. I think when I drew that in, I didn't pay very careful attention to what I was doing there. I need to do some work on that thumb. It's a lot of back and forth. But that's what it takes. I suppose you don't have to be as nitpicky as me, or you could also be more nitpicky if you want to, but I tend to not be able to leave things alone, and then I have to keep messing with them when I should just move on. Okay, so if I end up really liking this and I want to use it for something, I guess I can always, come back to it and fix anything that's really going to bother me. So for the sake of moving forward, I'm not going to spend another 30 minutes just like moving little bits of lines back and forth to try to get this perfect. But if this, if this were a commission or something, I was getting paid to do this, I'd spend as much time as I need making it look right. Anna says the corner of the thumb is throwing me off. Yeah, it does need to be a little bit more sharp. I agree with that. It's when you draw with that Bezier or the curvature pen, it tends to smooth things out a bit. Is that better for the corner of the hand? Mr. Tony Adkins says, what color would I make the hand? I would probably try to make it as neutral as possible, but I would also kind of go based on contrast. So it might, it might be multiple colors at some point. I don't know. I'm going to leave that kind of toward the end to decide, and maybe I'll take a vote and see, or take suggestions. Jamie says, any thoughts on doing it in Photoshop using the vector tools there? You could. There is a curvature pen tool, and a lot of the tools are the same. I just find that everything is a little bit easier to access in Illustrator because it's meant for drawing illustrations. So if I'm doing most of my composition in Photoshop and I need to draw like a star or a square or something super basic, I might do it in Photoshop, because I don't want to have to go into Illustrator and do it. But anything that's more complicated than that, then I'll do it with Illustrator, because it feels more comfortable to work here than it does to work in Photoshop. I see another little tweak I want to make here. Jigapuff is here, can't stay for very long. Thanks for watching, Jigapuff. It's good to see you. Anna says, how about a rainbow coming out of the pencil? Quite possibly. We will have to see. Because it would be nice to have some color in this. It's going to be... I didn't think about the aspect that a typical pencil color is kind of a yellow that I don't like. So I don't know that I'll use that. I mean, pencils can be in other colors too, so we'll figure out the colors, I think. They'll come together naturally. So now I need to kind of separate things a bit here. I want to get all my lines to that thickness that I want. Now these obviously are not going to need to be as thick. I still want them to be pretty bold though. Kind of starting to come together. But that's what I mean by simple. Just enough detail. And there's a node I'm going to need to remove in here somewhere. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I could put lines and creases in the hand, but I feel like that takes away from some of the negative space. Somebody mentioned in the comments it kind of reads as a pencil gun or something, and I could see if it were sideways. My interpretation of it is that it's kind of like I was thinking of trying to connect it to like digital art or something, and there are people who draw with their fingers, but then it could also be just kind of a generic art thing, you know, like you're an artist, so you have a, you know, gardeners have green thumbs, maybe artists have pencil fingers, I don't know. I looked up pencil finger briefly, didn't see any logos for it, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to make a pencil finger logo. Anna says purple is king in the crayon box in their opinion. Mostly Marshall's got to go. Thanks for watching, Marshall. Anna draws with their fingers all the time. So there you go. That's it's finger drawing. So now we can start thinking about colors, as long as I don't see anything else that I need to fix as far as the hand. Always good to make sure there's the right amount of fingers and stuff like that. I think I can live with this. So now coloring it in is going to be a little bit tricky. I've got things broken up into layers though, so it won't be too bad. I'm just going to lock my line layers there, and then I'll put the color underneath in its own little group. So I don't know what color I'm going to do everything yet. I'm just going to fill it in with something that I can see. So, for example, this pencil is not going to be orange. I mean, it could be orange, but, you know, probably won't be. Oops, I messed that up. Let's name these layers just to be a little more tidy with them. I'm just using the Bezier pen for this. I'm just creating hard points because they're underneath the line, so they don't need to be curved. That could be a different color. And again, these are not the final colors. This is just so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. So, logos are typically, you know, pretty simple as far as the colors go. So I already have black. It doesn't have to stay black, but that could be one color. And we need the other colors. So I'm going to save this. So I'm open to suggestions for colors. If there's colors you think would work well, I'll just kind of give you a rundown on what my goals are. I want it to be high contrast so that I'll be able to see it and it'll stand out. I don't really want to imply any sort of gender or skin color that's specific to anybody, and I know that's kind of hard to do while still, you know, being able to have the logo be high contrast. And then it has to look good, you know, it has to have a nice color scheme. I think other than that, I'm open to whatever. Marmo wants to see blue. Kuro wants to see no orange, please. Jamie says it looks like Frankenstein. Yeah, it is kind of Frankenstein-y. Maybe this is the Halloween version. Kuro says alien hand. Tony Adkins is seeing different letters in the shape of the logo. Ryoto says blue and yellow definitely. Anna says peach for the hand. Kuro says normal hand color will do. Well, that's the trick, is that, you know, normal hand color, nobody's hand color is the same color, so. I don't think it necessarily has to be my hand or my skin color, but if this is a logo that's going to appeal to everybody, you know, you'd probably expect that it's going to be maybe more colorful. That way it's really obvious that it's not supposed to represent a particular skin color. Kuro says my flesh color for the hand. Pasty white. I don't know if that's... I can show you the color of my hand. It's not a very good color. So like a yellow, orange, pink mess. Kuro says green plus yellow pencil equals classic. Ryoto says pick 5 colors and let's have a vote. Well, I'm just going to kind of get feedback on what everybody thinks, and then I'll try to make kind of a decision based on that, based on what will work. Blues and purples were suggested. So maybe we'll figure out the color for the pencil. We'll try some different things. That's the beauty about working in Illustrator here. So the pencil tip we know is going to be just a wood color. Doesn't have to be. For now, I'm going to make the pencil tip white. Oops. And we can come back to that and decide if we want to use a color on the pencil tip, because the pencil tip's going to be kind of insignificant, but there has to be a contrast between the tip and the pencil color for it to read as a pencil. So we could just try some different colors here. Here's how it looks: blue. Here's purple. Purple looks good with the green, but it is a little Frankensteinier, kind of alien-like. Hey, let's do this. The green is going to throw off everything. Let's make the green gray, so that we're not necessarily influenced by it at this point. And it very well could be gray. Gray is just not really like, you know, all that contrasty of a logo color. There's a magenta pencil, red pencil. We have the, if I can get to it, the classic yellow. That actually looks okay, I think. I'm just not really like, if I were going to have branding and this were my branding, I wouldn't want to use school pencil yellow, you know? Don't see a whole lot of green pencils, really. The blue is kind of nice. I kind of like that. Yeah, the lead color could be a color too. That's a good idea, Tony. That could also be a color. Why did the color not change for that? There we go. It might be a bit too small, so I think that's a good idea if the logo were larger, but when it's teeny tiny, I can already see that the lead won't show. Kuro says the gray hand looks dead. Purple hand, green pencil. Ian's here. Good to see you, Ian. Pop in and say hi. I've been off camera for pretty much the whole thing. Parrot green, purple hand green. Let's try purple hand green pencil just to see what it looks like. Purple and green can be complementary. Well, here's another idea, which might make it better, or it might be easier to come to a conclusion about what to do for the colors. I'm just going to make it all white, and then on this background layer here, I'm going to make that a color. If it will let me. You'll see what I'm talking about here in just a minute. But maybe all of this stuff is actually the background color too, you know, so it's just see-through, and then what we'll have here for the lines is what the color will be. So like, for example, it could be, you know, white like that on a black background or something. And then it doesn't really have like a specific color to it. So So that could be one way to do it. Then I don't know that it's necessarily as obvious that that finger is a pencil, so maybe not. It's tricky. Ian says a logo for memberships. It could be. This could be a finger painting emoji. I was just thinking just kind of a logo. It's just an idea that I had. Like, I was just thinking about logos and stuff in general and about art, and it just kind of popped into my head. And so I looked to see if anybody else had done it. I'm sure it's been done. It has to have been done. But for my initial search, I didn't see like a whole page of results. So I thought, you know, why not make it? It's a good idea. And this is what size is the logo. Since it's in vector, it's not really specific to any size yet, but it's gonna, you know, it's gonna be versatile in how big it can be. But it'll probably be on the smaller side since it's just a logo. Kuro says black and white looks nice. I mean, maybe that's just the way to go, just black and white like that. The white could imply skin tone, but I think because the whole thing is white, that's not as implied. I don't know. But the contrast is definitely better that way. That's kind of how I tend to lean towards logos, is like just have them be more versatile, and then you can have it in multiple colors. Because sometimes, you know, let's say your logo is green. What if for some reason you had to put your logo on something that doesn't look good with the green? You know, what do? You're kind of stuck with that. So Ian says, how do vectors not pixelize? They're represented in pixels as far as what you see on the screen, but you know, a pixel or a bitmap image that you draw with pixels is simply, oh, let me do this. I'm going to change this to pixel preview so we can preview how this will look. Why are you not working today? We can see how this will look. If this were a bitmap image, then it would look all pixelated like that, because that image would be comprised of little pixels. Like that's how the image is built. If you could physically go into the computer and touch it, there'd be all these little squares, right? But a vector image, if I just convert this now, let me zoom in more. If I convert this now, or I'm not really converting it, I'm viewing it in pixel preview, which is simulating how it would look if it were in pixels. If I turn that off, then I can zoom into it forever, because all it's really doing is saying, draw a perfect curve from this point. Let me do this. Draw a perfect curve from this point here to this point here, and have that curve always be exactly like that exact curvature. And no matter how zoomed in you are, draw a line from here to here and fill it with that color. And then it's not pixels. There's no pixels here. All there are points and then different properties that say, you know, how big the stroke should be, or what should go in between, or should the end be round or should it be flat. So it's all instructions about how to draw something. And that's why when I've been building this painting, I think you came after I said this, but it's a little more surgical in that you're plotting every single little point and deciding step by step what to do. When I'm doing a digital painting, it's different. It's like, you know, I'm painting like this, and it's hard to communicate, go like that, you know, because somebody might go like that, or they might go like that, and it might not be perfect. But when you're making vector art, you can say, do specifically this and move, you know, there are some things that are a little bit more variable, but for the most part, you know, that's how you do it. And that's why vector art and pixel art are so different. Now, when I take this out of Adobe Illustrator and I take it out of the vector environment, and I, let's say, save it as a PNG or a JPEG or some bitmap file format, then the vector becomes pixel. Like the pixels are like burned in, you know, there's no more points and curves and things like that. It's just pixels. And that's why you can't go in and edit a bitmap image with vector software. That's why, you know, they're kind of two different worlds. But they can enter into each other's worlds. You know, I could take a bitmap drawing, bring it into Illustrator, and then do a trace on it and turn it into vector, but it's not, you know, it's not quite the same. Mr. Tony Atkins with the $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Tony. Let me know if you have a question that you'd like me to answer. Very cool. If anybody else wants to super chat with a question or just to support live streams like this, there's a little $sign down in the bottom of the chat, and you can super chat, and then your comment or question will get pinned to the chat like Tony's there. So let's continue on here and finish this out. No real consensus on colors, as I would expect, because everybody likes different colors. Anna says, can you save a vector as a PNG? Yes, you can. Well, I'm thinking maybe we'll leave it like this for a while until I decide how I'm going to use it. I mean, we've seen what it looks like with some different colors, but I think probably something a little more basic and neutral without too many colors is going to look best. You know, like if it were going to be used for YouTube, then you'd probably have, you know, red, white, and black. Or if it were going to be used for, you know, a website that already has a specific color theme, you could do that. I kind of like the red and the white and the black. Red's not typically a color I would associate with pencils. Tony says every bit helps. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. It does. Without support from people like you and everyone else who supports my channel through Patreon and super chats and memberships and course sales and all that, and even just viewing my videos, without all that, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be able to do this full time. So thank you. You make that possible. Catalina says maybe solid black color in the pencil and then the lines in the pencil gray. That could be kind of cool. Could try that and see. So that will make it black. And then these two lines could be, I'm going to try them white real quick and see, just to keep the contrast kind of basic. That looks cool. That adds some contrast. I like that. I will just round them off a bit. I'll try seeing it without the lines too. There's one line just for some shine. I feel like it gets a little convoluted with the two lines next to each other, but it also creates kind of a halftone effect when it's that small. Probably can't see it as clear as I can because it, you know, it's going through the internet, but so I don't know, I kind of like that. What does everyone think of doing the pencil black like that? Did it look better when it was white, or does it look better black like this? And Catalina says so they can change the color with the hand. So if I were going to change all of the black, then this pencil black would be part of the stroke too. I see what you're saying. Ryoto loves it. Angelica likes it too. Okay, we can go with that. And maybe I will keep it like that for now, and I will just call this finished for the time being, and if I need to add to it more later, I will. It's 12 now. I know this is kind of a shorter live stream. I usually go for a couple hours at least, but I'm in the middle of a lot of video editing and recording, trying to finish my course for Corella Painter 2019, which is available for pre-sale right now. Let me know if you need a link for that. So I'm trying to kind of free up a bit of time in my schedule, and so I'm going to try to do some more recording and editing today instead of live streaming for a little bit longer. But thanks everybody for watching. I will be back next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time for another live stream, and I'll of course probably put up a poll or something ahead of time so we can decide what we're going to do. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's the best way to get an update whenever I'm going to be live streaming or when I release new videos. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.